Hello friends and welcome to Figure Study, where we are back with something that's not quite Tobots but is kind of in the same vague family, and that is the Sonokong, as opposed to Young Toys, turning Mecard Gryphinx. I think it's Mecard. It looks like it's spelled Mecard, but Mecard sounds a lot less awkward. And anyway, Gryphinx is made up of two vehicles, that is Griffin and Sphinx. Small wonder where the name comes from. Now, I don't have a whole lot of familiarity with the Mecard family, so to speak. I do have Phoenix, but Phoenix is a part of the Great Selening, and that's, yeah, I suppose I could do a video on Phoenix, because I still have Phoenix technically, but we're looking at Gryphinx right now. And yeah, it's very on par with Tobots in terms of like the overall size and the general simplicity, though there are definitely some different approaches that the Mecard toys take. And the plastic feels different, for whatever good that does you in a video. They're a little bit smaller in vehicle mode than typical Tobot, which I'll do size comparisons in a minute, but still very solid, very well done, very cool looking. I actually really like these vehicle modes, particularly Sphinx. But they both look great, and they have this kind of semi-unifying color scheme by way of the purple here. Because, like, Sphinx is predominantly red with this purple kind of accent color, and then Griffin is predominantly white with the same purple accent color. And it blends in, like here you can kind of see, like it blends together really well. That kind of helps to bring them together to make them look like a cohesive unit. And so while we're talking about a cohesive unit, let's break them up and look at one of them at a time. So, starting with Griffin, it's this kind of sleek, I guess, maybe like a hybrid car kind of look to it. Like this looks like, of the two of them, this would be the one that's electric powered. Not necessarily a bad thing. It's very sleek, futuristic concept car looking. This enormous sloped back windshield. Nothing discernible as far as like where the door is. Like it should be along here, but there's no like handle or brake or anything like that. So I don't really know. But then again, maybe they're not meant to be driven. They did paint the rims silver, which I always like. And they did some great, they did that thing that I really like where they've got like different bits of plastic that replace, like instead of using paint, they have like different bits of plastic within other bits of plastic to separate out color, and that works so well, especially with windows. I really wish, I really wish that Hasbro and Takara would do this kind of thing more often with their stuff, because it looks so much better. And I want to say like this could be paint, but it's so glossy and clean and consistent all the way around that I feel like it has to be plastic. It might just be like thin little plastic panels that are stuck on or something, but it works really well. And the translucent yellow for the headlights is great, and it looks like they may have actually painted like silver on the inside there to add a little sheen to them, and that's really nice. There's some really interesting kind of texture going on in the hood here that you don't really see that well because it's white, but it is there. You can see it a little bit better lower down where it's more shadowy. Like if there you go. There you can see the texture better. And I also definitely like that they brought a little bit of that purple from the back into the front here, just to make the color scheme seem a little bit more cohesive. As far as the way it's broken up, it's a little weird having it just kind of like this bit in the back, but it's fine. And the taillights, you got taillights. It could definitely do with a little bit more paint detailing or color detailing back here, but I definitely appreciate the painted taillights, because that would just be a big old slab of purple if, if it didn't have that. Not my favorite of the two, but still a pretty solid vehicle mode. Now, looking at Sphinx. Sphinx is by far my favorite of the two of them. Primarily because I love the contours of this vehicle mode. I really like the way that the color is split up here, because instead of the entire front being one color and entire back being another, it's like this red kind of goes all the way through, and then you've just got that purple along the sides. And the purple conforms to the contours of the vehicle as well, like these kind of sweeping arcs going over the windshield go along with it. And then like where this little lip kind of up here, where it stops, that's where the purple stops. And yeah, it's really cool. I like how that color distribution works. You got the nice silver rims as usual. Black plastic for the windshield, which again is a very large swept back windshield. A little bit of silver in the grille, which is nice. I think that actually works better than the purple on Griffin. And huge headlights that are a really interesting shape. They're almost bug-like, kind of. And along the back, got way more detailing, which is predominantly for, I guess, the Sphinx mode, but it's... these are kind of facing outward in Sphinx mode, so I don't really know. But it looks good. It's a little bit like, I think these are supposed to be the taillights, but they're the same exact color as the other gold bits here, so they don't necessarily read that way, but I guess it's fine. But getting back to the contours of this vehicle, I think what really kind of sells me on Sphinx is it's got a vaguely similar shape to a Viper, and I've always kind of had a thing for Vipers. It's something about the shape of that car just very much appeals to me, and this kind of very slightly reminds me of that in the way it kind of tapers in and then back out. It gets kind of more bulbousy in the front. It looks cool. I don't know how aerodynamic it is, but it definitely looks cool. Okay, so let's bring Griffin back in here. Let's Sphinx over here. I guess we'll do this. This is going to be interesting. So here we have our pseudo-standard deluxe, and as you can see, they are, as you'd expect for these kinds of toys, they are much, much larger than a standard Hasbro or Takara figure in vehicle mode. You know what I mean. And because I forgot last time, let me readjust here. We're just going to go with head-on shots. I think that'll be easier to kind of show this off. Okay. So yeah, I did forget in the last couple of videos. My apologies for that, but you better believe I'm still going to be bringing out the duck tank. And lastly, since I've been kind of bad about this, let's make room. I'm bringing in an actual Tobot. And not to say that these are like knockoff Tobots, but you know, since Tobots are kind of the primary focus of these types of videos on the channel, just bringing in Terrical there so you can see they're big, but still not quite Tobot big. Okay, so let's get on to transforming these things. I'm actually going to start with Griffin this time. That is Sphinx, that is not Griffin. I'm going to start with Sphinx this time because Griffin's transformation makes Griffin kind of big and unwieldy. So we're going to start with the one that's a little bit smaller and doesn't take up as much room, so I can at least keep it off to the side without things getting in the way. So yeah. Sphinx to start with. Let's start with the back. So, I'm going to wiggle these bits out here. They actually hold on really well. Come on. There we go. Let's pop that out, bring it down, and swing that down. And you can see there's actually like little toe details there. And same deal over here. Pop it out, swing it down. There we go. And then we can split the back. And this is on kind of a double hinge. I'll be able to show it up better with the other leg, but you want to bring that out until it clicks and... Oh, yeah. And you also want to swing this down because that'll actually give you the space to bring this back the rest of the way. And then swing the forepaw, whatever you want to call it, out. And there you can kind of see the double hinge in there. So, you do the same thing on this side, just bring it out, and on the double hinge, it'll actually kind of soft click at a point, and that's where I find is like the best place to kind of leave that joint in the Sphinx mode. And then bring this down again, and this will also soft click into two different positions, and swing it back. There we go. That wasn't properly locked in. Swing that out. And now for the last little bit, I want to peel up the hood and pull out just this bit, which is on a rather tight set of hinges. And you can put that back down. And then flip up the head And there we have Sphinx in its really, really goofy-looking Sphinx mode, and we're just going to get that out of the way so we can bring in Griffin. Okay, bringing in Griffin. Griffin's a little bit more complicated, not because it's necessarily a more difficult transformation, but because the way the front works, it's difficult to avoid scraping plastic against the beak. And so I kind of have to do it a certain way just to be careful about not scraping the paint. So I'm going to pop out these bits here. And then I'm going to not separate the back, but just slightly pop some of it out so that we can pull the top section up a little bit. Also pull this bit up. Because when we split the front and split this up here, you can kind of see there's the Griffin head. And these bits slope right in front of it. And the problem is when you swing the arms out, they bang into each other up here. And if you start moving this up right away, it'll scrape against the beak as this bit swings down. So what I end up doing is kind of carefully peeling it apart in sections that I can like raise this up and bring this out to the side. Then once one arm's done, it's a lot easier. So I'm gonna fold this all the way around until it kind of soft locks into place. Bring the arm up, rotate this around, so that this panel will tuck underneath the claw, and just adjust that, and there we've got an arm. Here you can see a little better how if you bring this up, it'll totally scrape into that face. So it's a little bit tricky, but it is doable. I just kind of wish that there was, you know, like this head bends down, but the way it bends down, it's not particularly helpful, and the beak is actually kind of behind stuff in vehicle modes, so it doesn't, like, you can't just bend the head down to give yourself clearance, really, so it's a little tricky, but like I said, it's doable. So we're gonna swing that around, pull that out, bring that panel in, and there we go. Okay, that's the front. Now for the back. The back is pretty straightforward. There's these bits here, you can see the little Griffin leg there. You just kind of hinge it back, and there is a foot here you can pull down. Same deal on this side, hinge it back, pull out the foot, and there is a kind of a stopping point when you bend the knee. It kind of will stop at an automatic spot. That's kind of where I find is the best place to leave it, because that just gives you the most kind of natural looking stance. And then fold this bit back for the tail. And there we have Griffin as a Griffin, and I'm going to need to adjust it a second, but there he goes. And I'll bring back Sphinx here. And keeping all of this in frame is going to be annoying, but I'll do my best. Okay, I think that's about as good as I can get it without showing off all the seams in the setup here. I'm sure there are probably some that I'm not noticing that are showing, but yeah. Here you've got Griffin and Sphinx. And knowing that the name for this one is Sphinx does make it seem like, oh, okay, yeah, that's a Sphinx. But like, if you didn't know the name, it just kind of looks like a pile of nothing. It's not great. Given the constraints they were working in, I think it's okay, but it's not great. Definitely feel like Griffin is the stronger of the two in animal robot mode things. And there is lots of newly revealed stuff here, particularly with Sphinx, but Griffin also has the big Griffin head and entire back section. So let's see, we started with Griffin last time, so let's start with Sphinx this time. Okay, now let's move the camera back in, because we've got a little bit more room to work with here. So, looking at Sphinx. Sphinx is a mess. It vaguely has a Sphinx shape with like the legs kind of coming out in front and these sort of sitting down cat-like back legs, kind of. I guess these read as legs. I feel like what I need to do is go in with like some paint and just paint the claws at least so that they stand out a bit more. But yeah, the shape of this is kind of a mess. I will say, though, the red and gold combinations for the shoulders and the face there actually look really good, and I actually quite like Sphinx's face. It's a completely flat panel with just some kind of, raised sculptural detail that is painted in gold and a little bit of black and a little bit of neon green, but I don't know, it's cool looking. It's very kind of angry robot, but it looks neat, and it has a little bit of sphinxiness to it in terms of the kind of shape of the back of the head and this little kind of chin beard-esque thing. I don't know what it's called, I'm sorry. It's something that's fairly common in Egyptian hieroglyphics and sculptures and things like that. That is, I think it typically pertains to pharaohs. I don't really know enough about Egyptian culture to know for sure what the kind of chin beard spike thing is meant to convey and what it's called, so my apologies for probably getting it horribly wrong. But all I'm saying is the visuals there definitely kind of harken back to that and give it a little bit of a vaguely Egyptian-ish look in a very subtle way. So you can kind of see the Sphinx Egyptian homage vaguely in a few places. And it's just kind of, yeah, you just want to look at it from the front because it's a mess up here, but it's way more of a mess back there. Okay, that's Sphinx. And Griffin is, as I said, the more successful of the two. The color distribution here is a little bit better, where the white is primarily just contained within the shoulders and wings, which these kinda, sorta, okay function as wings, kind of. They're not that big, but they kind of get the job done. The claws are, kind of simplistic. They're just little gold painted things, and they don't really read as claws from the front, but they work okay if you're looking at them from the side. The head is actually quite nice. It's also got light piping, but only if you come in from the side, which is kind of a shame. But yeah, that's what I'd call like a robotic birdie Griffin-y thing. It's weird that there's like the gold paint right next to the gold plastic. It really kind of sets it apart in tone. But it carries over the purple from the rest of the body. Some nice silver accenting throughout. It looks good. And then along the back, you've got the kind of stumpier Griffin legs, which I think actually work quite well. Like, yeah, you've got these little extra bits of like car wheel on the back, but the overall angle is nice, the shape is nice, the back legs have a pretty decent shape to them. The tail actually looks pretty good too, like that gold is just enough to really give it a kind of feathered look. One thing I do want to say though, there are some extra joints back here, which we'll get into in a minute, that were a little bit loose out of the box. I tried tightening the screws to see if that would make a difference, and it didn't, so I ended up doing the floor polish thing to tighten them up, and so now they actually like hold position pretty well. Whereas before, if I put Griffin down, like if I just bumped it, this would go like that, and that was a little bit annoying. So yeah, after a little bit of tightening, he holds up quite well. So that is good. So let's put Griffin off to the side and bring back Sphinx also off to the side and reposition. Oh boy. Okay, I'm just going to leave it like this. And let's do those size comparisons. So here they are with the kind of size comparison staples, and they're big. They expand out a fair bit, especially Griffin. Griffin takes up a much larger footprint in Griffin mode than in vehicle mode. And here they are looking like they could probably eat Duck Tank. And lastly, gonna bring in Terrical here and try and find a good angle to show him off. I'm gonna have to kind of split it between the two of them. So, sorry I can't get a particularly great angle here, but there you can see, in terms of the amount of space they take up, they're definitely a little bit more on par with Terrical in tractor mode there. And that is going to do it for Sonokong's turning Mecard, sorry, Gryphinx, or Griffin and Sphinx. So what do you all think of... Wait, what do you mean there's more stuff to show? I don't know what you're talking about. There weren't any extra bits in there. No, you're imagining things. It's just these two. Yeah, okay, fine. Yes, there is, in fact, a third mode between these two, which I thought would be kind of funny to jokey joke about there only being these two bits, but here, come here, Griffin, you get out of here. But yes, indeed, the two of them do have a combined mode. So, let's show off what all these extra joints and details that I've been intentionally trying to keep off camera are for. So I'm going to flip down Sphinx's head and bring this bit back in. But you want to leave this out, and this will actually swing up and swing the foot back down there. So swing that in, move that in on that double hinge again. You want to kind of put it back as it was in car mode. Bring that up. And now these bits, there are these thick kind of pegs here that'll actually peg in back here. So we bring this down, and that'll actually, there's kind of a rough little soft locking point there. So, gotta split this. So bring that down like that. That'll peg in, and that'll keep this nice and solid. So I've split that, and turn it around. Yeah, you can kind of probably see where this is going now. So, pull up the hood bit and pull this back, and this actually kind of locks in place. There's like this double hinge in here, so you need to pop that out, and then you can pull it back the rest of the way. And you need that for clearance later. So, bring this down, and let's bring these... I'll leave these down for now, just to get them out of the way. Yeah, well, you probably have a good idea of what's coming. So, move that off to the side, and bring back Griffin here. So, for Griffin, where do we want to start? We'll start with the hands. So, there's actually a double hinge on the inside here. You want to pop this up and bring it back, and it'll sort of soft click into place. And that reveals a fist. And around here, same deal. Bring that up. These are a little bit tricky to get going because they kind of soft lock into place rather solidly, so kind of gotta force them a bit, but it's okay. The plastic can handle it. Okay, so we've got that. Next, we'll bring the arms out to the side just to get them out of the way and rotate these down like this so that the wheels are facing down. Then we'll unclip the Griffin head and bring that down. And there's a little switch back here. And it's easiest to do it now just because this stuff's gonna end up on the back. But you want to push that up, and as you push that up, it reveals a head. Actually, I guess we could just leave it like this, and it could be like a dinky little, like... That's... Anyway. So, gonna fold the legs back up again, rotate all of this back up, and the best way I've found to figure out the orientation of the back legs when they go back into vehicle mode or this mode is to just see if they line up with the back panel of the tail when the tail is folded up. So rotate all that back in. There we go. And now this is what all these extra hinges are for. These will hinge around and up, and the tip of the tail will clip in at the back collar here. And that will hold that in place. And we've got all that set, so we will bring Sphinx back in here. And you can see there's a sort of track here and here. You just slide these together, and they will lock in place. And then if you want to disengage, you have to push this button, and that'll slide out. So there is that. I'm going to bring these back up a little bit just to clean it up. Bring these down. Raise the camera up some more because this guy's gotten rather tall. And lastly, fan out the head horns. And there, my friends, is turning Mecard, whatever, Gryphinx. This is why the set is called Gryphinx, because it is actually a combination, a literal combination between Griffin and Sphinx. And this is so cool. It's a little weird, but it's so cool. And I think the weirdness makes it even cooler. You've got these two pretty slick-looking vehicle modes that on their own look pretty darn great. Then you've got these two animal-ish modes that Griffin looks pretty good, Sphinx not so much. But then to also on top of that have them combine into something that looks shockingly cohesive throughout is really something else. I feel like if someone were to look at this as is right here, you wouldn't actually know right away by looking at it that this is made up of two different figures. They blend together so well. I think it really helps that the color scheme they decided to go with was primarily red for Sphinx and primarily white for Griffin, but have this purple kind of continue throughout both of them. That really pulls it all together. And the silhouette is actually pretty interesting. It's a pretty solid, tall, somewhat thin, but not like lanky robot mode with a really nice, thick, solid standing base with these two large, chunky lower legs. And this interesting kind of wing thing coming out on the sides. The horns on the head, it took a little while for me to warm up to, but I've gotten used to it. And he's got gorilla arms, unfortunately, but seeing as how this is a large Korean transforming toy based on a kid's show like Tobots, I pretty much expect Sentai-style articulation out of these guys. But this guy's actually more articulated than that. He's pretty darn good in those regards, because he's got like the forward-backward on the, like the rotation on the shoulders, got bicep rotation go in and out on the arms like you saw. The legs can go forward, backward, in and out. He's actually got knees. And another thing that I think is really cool is, there you can see the knees. Another thing I think is really cool is the Hinge Force, the Sphinx mode, is all down in here. And that could be a problem, but they designed it so that when these flaps come down and lock into the back of the heel there, it completely locks that in. So, like, that hinge is not going to move. And that's really cool. Like, you don't have to worry about things getting floppy. That was a kind of a brilliant idea. All right, so starting with the newly revealed details, we've got these black with gold, which is always a great combination for these kind of medallion-looking elements on the shins. This little pistons there. There's a little bit of hollowness in here, but it doesn't bother me that much because the legs are so thick going all the way through. It just kind of, yeah, it doesn't bother me as much as, say, Tobot Adventure Z, because it's much less pronounced here. There's actually some really nice molded detail throughout there. The knee piston looks cool, and I like that they colored that in silver. The thighs actually have some, it's hard to see, but there is some nice inner detailing there. And bring that out of the way, you can kind of hinge this out of the way and see there is some more detail under there. And you do have options for how you want to leave these side skirts. I prefer to just have them up and out slightly. Like, you could peg them back in if you wanted to, but in my mind that kind of, I don't know, that makes the thigh look a little too thin. I like how having it out just a little bit bulks the thigh out just a bit. And also I like the underneath detail for the car bits here, that like black and gold accenting. And the midsection, there's some vaguely ventish details around the Griffin head. And the arms are pretty much the Griffin arms, with this vaguely feathery detail for the wings there. And you get some robotic line work on the forearm there that's kind of covered up, but still there. And I kind of like how the claws go around the robot fist, so you can still see it, and this could almost work as like a claw weapon thing. That's pretty neat. And also, if you wanted, like, this is just how they show it in the on the box and instructions, but if you wanted, you could bring the wings down so that he takes up a little bit less space and kind of looks like he's at rest, I guess. I typically just leave him out, though. And then along the back, you can see it's actually pretty clean. Like, there's a little bit of the hood for Sphinx just as a butt flap, and a little bit of the back of Griffin as a backpack, but it's all fairly clean and tidy. It's not too bad. Really, the only thing from the back that looks a little bit bad to me are the backs of the arms here. As for the head, it's a little bit weird looking. It's primarily these big kind of horn wings on the sides and this like point at the top. Took some getting used to for me, but I have gotten used to it, and while it's still kind of a strange head sculpt, I don't mind it, and I think it works for everything else. The purple does kind of blend in with the rest of the plastic around it, especially because, you know, the torso is where most of the purple is, but it does have that silver mouth plate to help it stand out, and the neon green, which you only really saw in Sphinx's face before, so that also stands out, and then the black for the top of the head and the gold wings also helps. I don't really know if making the purple a different color would have been beneficial or not. I think I'm just being a little overly nitpicky. But yeah, Gryphinx is just a surprise all around. It's just a strange duo that become a solo. He does look cool. I am totally into the way he looks. It's just, it was a little bit strange at first, but I do like him a lot. Anyway, here he is with, oh boy, let me readjust here a sec. So here he is with a deluxe, and yeah, when you put the two of them together, they get big. They get very big. He is actually bigger than a, I guess, standard-ish Tobot. And, you know, these things are not small, but, yeah, he's definitely thinner, not as bulky, but he's way taller. And he also seems to have a bit more of a presence, both because of how much wider he comes across and because he's got that really striking color combination and distribution. And as you probably expected, he completely dwarfs Duck Tank. All right, that is going to do it for turning Mecard, whatever, Mecard sounds better, Gryphinx. For real, there's not a hidden fourth mode that I'm hiding or anything like that. This figures, it's a strange, weird set, but one that really works for what it's doing, and I really dig it. As I keep saying, like, the way they distributed the color is fantastic. Some of the engineering decisions are actually really clever. Vehicle modes are awesome. The robot combine mode is awesome. The individual robot animal modes, Griffin's pretty decent. I think Griffin, if it were a standalone, wouldn't be great, but would at least be okay. Sphinx would not be a very good standalone. But yeah, this combination overall, like, it's great. It's a really cool set. I love that you've got these two really cool vehicle modes that combine into a really cool, if slightly strange, robot mode, and then you've got the other two modes as well as like a sort of bonus. But I've gone on long enough, and it's getting warm. I need to turn the AC back on. So that is going to do it for turning Mecard Gryphinx, as I said. What do you all think of this set? Did you already know that they combine and I was just being silly for no reason, or was it actually a surprise? In terms of the different modes, what do you all think? Do you like or not like either or both of the vehicle modes? Same deal for the individual animal robot modes. How do you feel about the combine mode? Because, like I said, it's kind of weird, but weird in a way that for me works really well. Whatever your thoughts, feel free to chime in down below. I always enjoy hearing from you all. And while you're at it, also feel free to like, subscribe, or if you're feeling generous, you can buy me a coffee. There will also be a link for that in the description. And as I've mentioned, the Great Selening is still ongoing, so if you are interested in buying any toys, and in some cases video games, that are gently used but collector-owned and in very good shape, unless otherwise stated, I am trying to be clear with anything that might be broken or missing parts or whatever. If that kind of thing interests you, you can also check out the Great Selening. There will also be a link down below for that. And I think that is going to do it, so there's not much else to say, but thank you all for watching, and remember, art is more than meets the eye.